Hello and welcome to Nobody Meets Somebody, the podcast where two comedians
who are currently nobody
meet somebody.
who is famous. My name is Mary Picarazzi.
And I'm Tanvi Arora.
In today's episode, we got to talk with the awesome Paul Virzi. He is a New York stand-up comic who has a fantastic special out on Comedy Central called I'll Say This. His album just dropped December 8th, so make sure you go online and order that. He's also the host of the Virzi Effect podcast that you should definitely check out.
I watched the special last night and I was hooked. I am so excited to talk to this guy. Let's dive into it.
All right, let's talk to Paul. Hey, Paul, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm overly caffeinated. Sorry.
No worries.
All right. So we got our handy dandy Tambir courses up there in the darkness.
It's not that dark. I don't know.
It looks a little light and evil here. You know, I'm just gonna say I got the high road. So
minute one, and you had to be racist. Awesome, cool.
Just get it out of the way early. All right. So we have our questions in our handy dandy. My kid's shiny red hat because that's how high tech we are.
And I got my Pyrex cup because I want Pyrex to sponsor this.
Every episode, we're hoping they're going to sponsor us. So let's get started here. The first question I have is, are comedy competitions worth it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, they were. I think a comedy competition at a younger age in comedy. When I say age, I don't mean literal age. I mean your age in comedy. Yeah, I think where you are in comedy matters with stuff like that. And I think when you're at the beginning, you just look at that as stage time. You know, I think when I would say something like that is better than an open mic, at least in New York, because open mics in New York weren't like open mics in a lot of places around the country. A lot of places around the country, it's a real open mic where it's like there's audience comes knowing they're going to see up and coming brand new comedians, where in New York, you could literally go and there's like 14 comics with their notebooks in the crowd and you could almost be tainted by that. You know, that's what I felt like. It's like, you know, how is anybody going to really give me advice or a reaction when they also suck? You know, we all suck here, right? We all suck because we're a month old. Now, the goal is to be the best of everybody that sucks.
The best sucker, yeah.
the best of the 1 month guys that are doing it. So if you get a bunch of comedians and he or she may have a really great joke and they're going up there and there's 8 people that are just comics waiting to go and run theirs, you could kind of go home feeling like shit about that joke, but that joke could be absolute monster. So a competition, you kind of know there's going to be a crowd and what do you have to lose anyway? You know, so that's how I started with doing competitions or places. Hey man, I'll throw you up on this thing. I knew there would be a crowd. I thought that was always more important than an open mic in New York.
Did you ever get those comics that they would win a local competition and then they suddenly thought they were the big shit on the street type of rebound on that?
It's funny because I did a competition in a long time ago called Hudson Valley's Funniest Man, and that's like kind of like upstate New York, an hour out of the city. And a lot of people thought I should win, and I ended up coming in second. And I remember the radio station that ran it was like, the guys that come in second are, you know, they get hungry because of it. And I don't know what happened to the guy that won it, but I definitely, you know, felt that way. I think arrogance is something, being arrogant and not humble in this will catch you quickly in this. So especially when you start to, you know, you could talk shit at certain tables. Yeah. But when you get to another level, reality hits for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true. All right. On a lighter note, what superpower would you wish for? These are just so random questions.
It's a random ass question, yeah.
What superpower would I want? I guess to fly. I mean, I know flying I would say either I would say either flying, but also like super strength. So it's like if I was tied up or kidnapped or like, you know, in one of those situations where like no ropes could hold me or like no like I watch a lot of crime shows.
This is showing.
Yeah,
this is so evident right now because you hit flying, like the most common thing that you do probably 9 times out of 10. But the one fucking time you're going to be tied up, you're like, ah, boom, I got it. I got it.
Yeah, I watch so much crime and true crime. And when I see the person tied up and they're just cursing and angry because they can't get out, like I would love to just not be able to just like, nope, nothing could hold me down. So I think maybe that.
I really wanted to know though, the base, where did it come from? But you already answered that. So if you ever are probably acting in a crime show, the writer should know. Like they shouldn't write a scene with you being tied down. No, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Like how often are you going to use? How often are you going to use that? Like
that's a good point. It's like I don't know how many times I'm going to be tied to a chair.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how many times.
But like teleportation, you can save yourself a shit ton of time and travel.
That's no, but like flying doesn't mean teleporting. Now that's another thing. You're saying that I could teleport?
That's a superpower. I mean, we can't do it now, so why is that not a superpower?
I guess teleporting would be a good one. Now that means, can I teleport to any time, or could it just be now?
Oh, this got complex. We weren't prepared for this yet.
Could I go to like 1940 something, or does it have to be like now? Like I could teleport to San Antonio when there's a snowstorm.
Well, let us keep it with now because we don't know how that time space continuum is going to be. Like you might just fuck everything up and Hitler wins or something.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
but that's pretty interesting. So if you could teleport to a time, what time would you go to?
If I could teleport to a time, it would be back in the past, not the future. And I would say, you know what? I would go back. I mean, you could go back to so many tragedies to prevent, but I think giving the video footage of 9/11 to the authorities on 9/10 and stopping that would be pretty fucking cool, especially considering it happened in New York and I'm a New Yorker and I could have been the one to prevent that. Like, my shows better be sold the fuck out.
I'm a damn hero, bitches. Show up.
That's a conflict of interest. His shows are going to be sold out, but my shows.
Yeah, Tanvir gets. He gets the opposite of fun.
That would hurt your shows, I'm sure.
Big time.
That's funny. Oh man. Let's see. What's my question? Okay. What was it like when you found out that you were getting a Comedy Central special?
That process was so long and drawn out when we were waiting for it because I'm ready to shoot my next one, but we kind of, with the first one, we shot it and then we're selling it, right? Mm-hmm. So when you hear from places and who's going to pick it up and going into meetings and where it's going to go and contracts, and all I could do was sit home and would just wait for a phone call. And the phone call was going to be that this one's taking it, because a phone call, listen, it was my first one. I had done an album. I never did a special. So the phone call is either yes, they want it or they don't. They're going to take it. What's the money? When's it going to air? How many times? All these different things. And my power was literally just this. Hello? That's all I could do. So when we found out that we were going to Comedy Central, it was definitely, it felt good. And it was a relief. As much as I wanted it to be celebratory, which it was, don't get me wrong, it meant a lot. But it was almost like, all right, good. Like now we know where we're going, and there was some relief to it. But it was definitely, I was super, super happy for sure.
Did you have like the number programmed in the phone so you knew what number was coming from, or could any number be it? No, how would you feel about your AT&T?
No, it would be my manager. So and I talked to my manager so many times a day during the day that I never knew when I answered if it was going to be, what it was going to be,
That's fair. That's fair. I would probably be like every freaking phone call I got would be like, how do you feel about AT&T? I'm like, damn it, I'm waiting for a phone call. Hang up, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely when it's out there and the work is done. What was crazy about it was the work was done and we knew what the special was and we knew what happened that night, especially, the taping that I thought I envisioned to be the show, which it ultimately was. But I think that like when you know what you have and you work that hard on it, now it's like, all right, you just want people to see. Because it changes your life. It changes your life the next day because it's like, oh, now comedy clubs want me there. And now people want you there because they could see it. And it was so many years. It was 15, 16 years of hard work,
Right.
Almost 17 years to get it. And then you get it. And it's like, and now I'm ready to shoot the next one. So we are going to shoot the next one in 2021.
Sweet.
Oh, where at? Did you already pick a location?
Well, I was originally going to be Milwaukee because I love this place there, but now with COVID, it's not going to be New York. The first one was New York, so we might go to Boston.
Okay.
But so we're thinking about it still as far as location. But we know one thing we do know is it will be shot. Hopefully, when this madness is over in the spring.
Nice, awesome.
Sweet.
That's
Looking forward to
exciting.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What was your last non-comedy job?
My last non-comedy job was it was sales. It was a lot of sales. I sold phone, cable, internet, door to door in New York City, Manhattan, and Queens. I was doing that. Then I helped my brother with recruiting. Did some recruiting. I'm just trying to think if my last one. Yeah, it was sales. It was definitely sales.
Okay.
And it was. I'll tell you what, man, knocking on somebody's door at dinner time and in New York City at 7:00 saying, hey, I got a new HBO package. And, I got to tell you, it made getting on stage not that bad. I saw some wild shit door to door, man. I'm not kidding. Like I saw some wild shit. And you just like, you don't realize like people's homes, dirty, people's homes have, animals and shit. I went to this one dude's house and this dude just had tanks of like reptiles. And then I saw like a chicken run by.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure this shit is not legal, what this guy's doing. He had some kind of, and there were some houses where I would see wild shit and I'd be like, yeah, phone, cable, internet. And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, all right. I was hoping you didn't invite me in that shithole. So
I don't want to see
more. Yeah, man. I saw some wild shit. So I would say sales because I was always kind of like I dropped out of college to do stand up, but I needed money, obviously. So I would say, okay, I could make some money at a sales job. Use my personality and all this stuff with making money there while doing sets at night.
Oh, cool. So it was almost like you knock at a door, they'll be like, hey, you want this HBO connection? No, you want to come to a comedy show tonight then instead?
Yeah. Well, sometimes now that you said that, when I would get a good rapport with people and I would sell them something or talk and they would be like, well, I'd be like, yeah, I'm also a comedian. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And, so I'm sure that I have fans today that are, have the same cable package I sold.
Nice.
Hey, hopefully it wasn't the chicken guy because that would
yeah, exactly.
be like, no, we're good. You don't need to know who I am. So what was it like to ride for the ESPY Awards?
That was awesome, man. So what happened with the ESPY Awards was it was Seth Meyers was hosting and I had found out that some of my friends, Bill Burr, a couple of other comedians, were working with like Neil Brennan was working on it, and Bill and a bunch of people were working on these jokes. So I was talking with somebody, might have been Burr or somebody, and I said a joke about one of the NFL coaches. And he goes, dude, that's hilarious. He goes, I'm going to submit that. And then it was like, you know what? Why don't you write on this thing? So I started sending these jokes. And then I started finding out that like Seth liked a bunch of them. Nice. And then when it gets to like the last day, you find out like, and I mean, the nice thing was it was more fun because like I'm not a writer for TV shows. I'm more of a stand-up. But the reason I was able to do it was because I knew Seth's cadence on SNL Weekend Update.
Yeah.
So he would say something, and then he would like, so Seth Meyers would do something like, he would say like, he would say something, and then he'd go, when asked why that happened, and that's how he would do it. Like, when asked why, boom.
Yeah.
So I always remembered that. And I remember going into like the last day, someone was like, dude, 3 or 4 of your jokes are on the board still. And I was like, great. And then like day of, I found out that one joke made it. So he does this 13-minute monologue when he comes out. And that's in LA. And I'm on my couch in New York just watching and waiting. And then all of a sudden, I don't know in the 13 minutes when it's going to be. And I don't know. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, what if they scratch it? Which would have sucked. Like waiting all that, and then like, oh, you got it in. And then all of a sudden I'm watching. And I think he was like 7 minutes into a 13-minute monologue. And I'm going, man, this might not, whatever. It is what it is. But I was younger at the time, so it would have been really cool. And then all of a sudden he went into a joke, and I'm going, this is my joke. And
nice.
He did it. And I was just sitting there with my wife. So it was, that was cool. And then, it was a quick thing. I knew it wasn't going to be some huge thing, but to get that at where I was real dope.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge sports person. So for me, when I was researching and looking up, I was like, oh, that's like added to the bucket list. Like that's cool. Like that's something you don't anticipate a stand-up comic having that ability or having the opportunity to do it. So all those stars aligning was super awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
That's cool. Yeah, we talked about a good thing. Let's talk about one bad thing now. The worst gig you ever had. The absolute worst.
The absolute worst gig I had was, story. I told this story on Sirius XM. This was brutal, man. There was a golf country club in New York, and what they would do is they would give an award out every year, and it was like the Headless Horseman Award. And it was just it was all men, no women. And they would go out and they would play golf on this like incredible golf course. And then they would come back into this. And I mean, when I tell you country club, like Bill Murray belonged there. And a lot of times he went to this gig. Luckily, he wasn't there when I did it. And all of them play golf. And then they go into this. I'm talking 5-star. Like to be a member there, probably like $50,000 a year plus fees and shit. Like this is like, so these guys were all, you want to talk about 1%ers. You're talking like this shit was like millionaires. So Buddy goes, hey, it's a couple thousand. After they come off the golf course, they shower, they get dressed, and then there's this dinner. There's like ice sculptures, and there's literally like people shaving. People were like shaving fucking meat off of stuff, and then you go in the back, and it was like a movie. All of these white chairs and a stage and all these caterers working and stuff. And they go down, there's cigars. And I bring an opener. I go, can I bring an opener for something like this? And they're like, yeah. So I bring my buddy, Jason Lawhead. And I got him some money. I got some money. And the guy at first, it was funny because they were like, we watched your stuff. You seem like you're more of like a, I think this was more like not roasty, but like kind of like more of like a look at this asshole, like stuff like that. But then throwing in some jokes. Yeah. And I was just like, I'm taking that money. It's a gig. And I've been doing it long enough. Like this was like, I was kind of, this is what hurts. I was kind of established, or getting close to. And my buddy goes on and he's fucking killing. I mean, killing. And I'm waiting there and I got a check of a lot of money in my pocket and, and he's going up there and he's killing. And then he's about to leave and they're like, no, don't leave. And then they're going, one more joke. Right. And I'm waiting and he gets off, thunderous applause. And I walk up there and I said something roasting my friend. I go, yeah, I said something along the lines of like, if you knew what was in his checking account, like he wouldn't be allowed on the grounds or something, just quick, easy. Right. And then I start going into shit. And I did tell him, I go, I'm going to do the race stuff. So if you have any, like, since I'm closing, and I didn't care, but I'm going to do the race stuff. Right. and he did some race stuff, right? So I start going into it, and I remember one of the guys saying to me, roast the guy who's winning the award a little bit. Roast the guy. So I say something along the lines of, and they tell me his wife's name and all.
Shit.
So I said something, and this guy's a millionaire. I said something like, this guy has got his hands on a lot. I was talking about his money. And I go, this guy's got his hands on a lot of paper and plastic. And when I say plastic, I'm talking about his wife, Lindsay's tits, right? And the whole place just goes, whoa, no. And so they already don't like me. And now I'm just going in. They're not really like, they just hate me. Then I started making fun of Chris Christie, okay, the politician. And I'm saying, if this guy can't balance his weight, how's he going to balance a budget? I'm doing all kinds of shit. And my buddy in the back who killed said somebody leaned over to him as I started making fun of Chris Christie, and they go, oh my God, they go, we just threw him a $3,000 a plate fundraiser in South Carolina last week. I'm calling him a fat fuck. I'm calling him a fat fuck. This guy can't balance a budget. This guy's going to balance a budget. And dude, they hated me to the point where now I'm dying. Like now it's so bad, and it's like a movie. It's like a sea of rich people. There's like ice sculptures. There's shrimp. These guys are in suits. I insulted his wife to finally one point where one old man was like, all right, man. All right. And I'm like, no. And dude, it was like that. And I remember I said goodnight. Luckily I had the money on me. I walked out the door into the parking lot. I got into the car. I texted my buddy who was probably having drinks with these assholes.
He's like, they're gonna make him a new member and shit.
Yeah, he's playing golf with the guy who won the award the next week. And I just go in the car, wow. And and we were driving. I'll never forget this. We're driving back to New York City, and we made great money. And I'm just like going through my head, like what happened, man? I was one that's going to stick with me. And as we're driving, it's just quiet. And all of a sudden he just goes, you're a great comic, man. And I'm like, but that one, that was one where like you go through your head of like, what could have, and it's just one of those things, man. But, it made me, it made me hungry, it made me hungry. It made me better. Even though I was at the time a little more established, it made me realize like, no, man, that could happen. So.
Damn. Well, there was a lot of shrimp there too. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn. Wow. That is brutal. Like an old man gave you the light, really.
Yeah. I mean, the old man like kicked me off.
Did he like stand up and like make a gesture of it? Or?
He didn't stand up, but it was just like, all right, like you're done, man. You're done. Yeah.
Damn. Oh, I kind of feel like I got chills. Like I got awkward just hearing that.
Oh, dude. Hey, man, you asked. Thanks for making me relive it too.
Yeah, it's holiday season. It's holiday season. We're all about giving. Okay. So for comedy writing, are you an electronic person? Like, do you use a laptop, phone, or are you a pencil and paper guy?
I would say it's both. I would say I'm a good mix of both. Like the iPhone, if I have an idea for a bit, I don't really write out bits. Like I don't write out all of it. So, I'll put the premise down in the phone. And then if I think of a couple of punchlines in my head, I'll put that in the phone. But then like before a set, I'll never write my set out on the phone. I will get a pen and paper and I'll write it out, and I'll look at like, and make sure I definitely hit this joke. Like if there's 4 or 5 that I definitely want to make sure are in the set, or if there's like a handful of new ones and I want those in the set, I'll write those down.
Has your style always been that way, like from the beginning, or has it evolved? Were you like write everything verbatim and have kind of eased up the longer you've been in it?
That's actually a really great question. And I would say the answer to that question is, yeah, I think when, you're younger at it and you're new, you probably want everything like verbatim, everything. And then now it's like, if I'm like, all right, I think of this thing, me and my wife, like I'm doing this joke about Plan B, right? Doing this joke about getting a Plan B pill. So that'll happen. It's a couple things I thought about, and I'll just jot the highlights down, and then I'll just go on stage and do that more so now. But I'll get on the really, really big shows, and on the shows that are like any show that's a taping or like a really big show, I'll still stick to what I do now, but I'll write it out. I'll make sure that I hit anything. Like if normally I would say, that's going to take me there anyway, I'll still write it down. Even though I know it's there, I'll still write it down.
Just to be double sure you hit all those points?
Right. Like if there's one little nuance of the joke or like one little tag on the big ones, I'll just make sure. And listen, I'm going to hit it anyway. But it's almost like an OCD thing. It's not like a lazy thing. It's not like I'm not taking the show seriously. It's just that I know that I'm going to do it. But on the ones that I'm like, I can't fuck this up,
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm very much a writing pen and paper. Like everything's written pen and paper. Yeah. So, but I'm a verbatim person because it forces me to see like shit that's like nuanced. Like this is a lazy word. I need to do better. It makes it easier for my OCD brain to work. But Tanvir is very much electronic. So, like if I have something electronic wise, I'll never remember it. Never.
Yeah. No, so I'm like that too because if I took the time to write it on a piece of paper, it's probably in my pocket. And then I know it's there and I could look at it and put it back where one thing that I do that I'm the only, and it's my OCD, so I don't discredit anybody that does this. So I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody, but never one time in my career because of my OCD have I looked at a note or my phone on stage ever, even in an open mic. And I started doing that young, and it was a kind of something I said to myself, and I probably stupid. It's probably something that it's like if you have an idea and there's 8 people in here, but in my mind, I'm like, nah, just don't. And it's weird because all these years I've never done it. And I have a lot of good friends and great comedians. I'm sure that you guys know that I see put it on the fucking, the stool, and they'll just go, hey man, what else do we gotta, what else am I gonna, and they'll do that. And for me, it's like I just don't do that.
That's actually my biggest pet peeve. I'm not even. If I see that, I'm like, then it wasn't good enough for you to remember it. Like that's how my brain works. I'm like, okay, this wasn't good enough for you to remember. But people work it out differently. But my brain is just, I can't do that. Like to me, that's just awkward.
I agree, and it's like again, man, George Carlin did it. So who the fuck? Yeah. I'm not trying to judge anybody. Right. I know people, but when I see somebody go, what else do I got? For me, it was just coming up with something I didn't want to do. Excuse me. So I just kind of stuck with that. But I also don't take tags. I won't take a tag from a friend. And but it's my OCD. It's what I'll do to myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really has nothing to do, with because you're sitting there talking with a friend and, you're writing a joke about being in an Uber, or you write a joke about playing a board game with your family. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, right there, you should say this. And if that crushes, I will beat myself up because that's who I am. And that's what I do. So I have friends go, Paul, I shouldn't tell you this. I know you're never going to use it, but I won't use it.
That's funny.
That's actually ties up with my next question. What's the best advice you've ever received? And what's the worst advice you've ever received? And if you've taken it?
The best advice that I've ever received in this game, in comedy. I guess the best advice that I ever got would be dig deeper as far as your honesty of who you are. So I remember one time I was sitting down and I said to a comic, a great comic, I said, man, I think I can do this. I think I can do that. I'm going to do this. I could do in this. I feel like I can be great. I feel this. Like I was just, I was coming off of a show and we were eating, and I said, and I didn't do it in an arrogant way. I did it in a humble way. Man, I think I could be. And they looked me in the eye and they said, you're never going to be great if you don't dig deep. And by digging deep, it's like, the fear of the fear of bombing is such a big thing, because bombing in what we do is the ultimate. It's the ultimate failure of what we do. If you bomb with what we do in our minds, because people don't look at it the right way. You got to look at it the right way. It's like, because if you bomb, well, why did you bomb? Did you bomb because you were lazy and didn't prepare? That you should feel bad about. But if you bombed because you took a chance on a risky joke that might not be PC, or you took a chance on something that you believed in and you still think is funny and fuck that crowd, then that's a growth, and that's a really good thing. Right. So I think finding your voice is that, being the funny you, right? Who said that? Louis C.K. or somebody, like, when you're the funny you off stage, and then you bring that funny you that's off stage, if you bring that on stage, because he's like, that's just you. Yeah. You know, so it's like when it was just Paul on stage, after it took me about 10 and a half years to get there, but it was just me talking. Listen, we're always going to be performing. We're always going to be an exaggerated version a little bit. You're in the moment. You're having a good time. You know, me, I'm a stage stalker. I walk. I tell stories. I act out. That's just who I am. But I do that off stage when I'm talking to my friends, because I'm an animated, you know, I'm fucking Sicilian and Greek. I use everything. My whole body. So with me, it's like the best advice is to just, like, the truth. Like, you could go up there and be like, oh, and then I took the fucking cat and I punched it in the face, and knowing you didn't. You didn't take the cat, and you didn't punch the cat in the face. So I guess getting the truth and digging deep with the truth, even if it means standing there uncomfortably. And that's what I think the digging deep meant. As far as the worst advice, I don't know if it was the worst advice, but one thing that sticks with me is I remember there was like this arrogant headliner at one of these clubs, and the host was nervous about his set, or the host was just like, man, and I remember this guy who wasn't a big name just goes, tell me your lineup, man. What joke are you going to do? And he was like talking to the host, and the host goes, I think I'm going to do this and this and this. And the headliner goes, don't do that one, man. Don't do that. Why would you? And like the kid, like, and I'm going like, you don't, it's, first of all, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you to tell anybody that? And it's just, it was such like an arrogant thing to do. So I think the worst advice is really giving advice. Like, I think, you know, like, this is not something that, like, you're going to talk to some wizard, you know, and you all of a sudden, I think what it is I think you talk to people that have experienced everything, and you're going to have to go through some shit yourself in this game. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. And you have to be willing to go through all that. But I don't think that there's any advice that somebody can give other than, hey, man, get up as much as you can, write as much as you can, and just be honest and take chances, you know?
Yeah, that vulnerability is no joke. No joke.
That's exactly right. That's probably the best way to look at it, is like that vulnerability and that honesty. They're like dogs, man. The crowd is like dogs. They see everything. The crowd sees real. The crowd sees fake. The crowd feels likable. They feel unlikable. So all of those things, man. So if you're just you and you just kind of come with what you bring, that's the most important, I think.
That's fair. Yeah. And what's funny is that the guy that's telling that guy, like, oh, don't do that. The real people, you have like the Dave Attell's, they're not going to be like, let me hear your set list. They don't give a fuck. Go do your shit. I'll do my shit. You do your shit, you know?
Yeah. Cause it was a self-serving thing. It was it was bullshit. It was like for him to go, man, I'm going to tell you what to do. And that's his insecurity. That's him projecting his shit, you know, on you. And you never tell a comic that. Like, so I'm trying to think of like any like bad advice. I you know, the comics kind of usually speak to them, like sit with themselves and kind of, you know, deal with it themselves. And I haven't heard anybody say something really horrible, but that one was, you know, that was one.
Well, you should be female, Paul, and then wait till you get the advice about show more tits, show less tits. People love to say that. I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah. No, that's brutal.
But that's my own projection right there. I'm not going to lie. All right. Best backstage story that you're willing to share.
Best backstage. All right. So this is a cool one. So who was it? Me, Jason Lawhead, Bill Burr. Who else was there? There was a bunch of us, and we were at the Tabernacle in Atlanta. Big theater, maybe 1,900 seat theater. And it was during the time that Anchorman 2 was filming. So Dave Koechner came out, Paul Rudd came out, and a bunch of them come out to the show. And they are hanging out in the green room with us, drinking some beers, having a good time. And the show is about to start. And they all go, man, let's go get seats. We want to watch the show. And this is a true story. This is fucking really actually awesome. It's bringing me back. Nice. So the Tabernacle, think of the stage like this. Here's the curtain, but it also goes like that. So that the curtain, so there's like curtains on the side. So if I'm on stage right here and I look there, there's like curtains with a slit on both sides.
Both sides.
The crowd can't see it.
Right.
Okay.
So the crowd is only seeing like this, right?
Yeah.
So the crowd is only seeing what you two are seeing me now.
Right.
There's like wings, right?
But over here, there's it goes around the thing is almost like a I guess you could say that it was almost like a horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The curtain is like a horseshoe, but there's slits along the whole thing.
Okay.
So I'm on stage and I'm doing my jokes, and all of us, and mind you, they had like their mustaches and stuff from Anchorman, right?
Okay, yeah.
And Paul Rudd decides during my whole set that he's going to just have his head to my right. He's just going to have his head out. I actually saw him after, and we talked about this. He had his head, so the curtain and just his head, and I see the Brian Fantana mustache and the thing, and I'm doing, and I mean it's not 10 feet for it's right there. So it's literally me on stage with Paul Rudd's head during my set. There's 2,000 people there. Every time I would say a joke that he laughed at and liked, he would start laughing. He didn't want to screw me up, so he would disappear. The head would disappear. And then he would come back. So I was on stage, and I'm doing the jokes, and the set starts to go well, and I build momentum. And my closer was about how I kind of lost touch with intimacy with women because I'm married with 2 kids and I have a daughter and all this stuff. And I talk about, all the things I have to do for my baby girl with, her diapers and just life. And I said, if I wouldn't know what to do with a woman now. And I said something along what's the joke? I said, if a woman opened her legs in front of me right now, I'd grab a baby wipe and go front to back. And he's got daughters, and he fucking laughed and his head just disappeared. And I got off stage, and he's laughing, and he's like, that was so awesome. And then they walked on stage, and they were like, these guys are so funny. Give it up for these guys. And then we got one more, and then they brought up Bill as their characters. And then afterwards, we hung with them for a little bit. We had some drinks and everything like that. And that was one that I will. There's been a couple of really cool ones, but that was a very unique one for me.
That's pretty good. I love that joke, by the way. That's one of my first. That was the first joke I got introduced to you, Fi.
Really?
Yeah. I just had my daughter, and someone sent me that clip, and I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And I'm like, I told my husband, like, you got to hear this. And he's like, I'm half asleep right now.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's funny. That is awesome.
That would have thrown me off, though, someone being on stage and just the head.
That's why he's a professional.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
It was so funny, though. And I was just like, this fucking guy is just, it was really cool.
That's funny.
All right. Next question. Oh, this is a fun one. 3 things he would bring to a deserted island if you were just allowed 3 things.
Shit. That includes. I mean, you guys are throwing me for a fucking superpowers
You're super strong. Remember that you're on the island. You're super strong.
But that includes exactly. That includes water. Like
you have the shit to survive. This is just 3 things that you would comfort you.
Okay, so I'm gonna survive. I have the things to survive. Okay. My God, 3, huh?
Assume your family's there, all that. Well, we got it. Your kids are going to be when your wife's there. We got it.
Okay, so we could eat. I'm eating and I'm sleeping with shelter.
Yes.
You're good.
The 3 things that I would bring with me. I would my phone. I would have to say my phone.
Okay. A lot of places to charge a phone. Yeah.
My iPhone, definitely. I try to upgrade better service, but yeah, I have my iPhone. I would have. I know this sounds weird, but if my son is there, my kids are there, I would have some sort of ball to throw, like either like a football or like a catcher, like a baseball glove for like a pastime.
Yeah.
Like to do something kind of like that. I would have to say, if I'm on a deserted island, maybe like a fishing pole, right? I would need a fish.
That's
That'd be a good idea, yeah.
So I would, so it would here's what it would be. It would be a fishing pole. It would be a deck of cards.
Okay.
It would be a fishing pole. It would be a deck of cards, and the third, and my phone.
Okay.
Because
So your son would grow up and be the best poker player ever in the world.
Like he would be, he would, like he would be the best fisherman / poker player of all time. And then somebody would say to him, like, "What did you fucking grow up on a deserted island?" Like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, between your daughter and your son, one of them is going to become the best flipping player ever.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a long con on that one. You're waiting for that long game on that one.
I like you still were a proper parent, right? You won't give your phone to your kids. They'll either do the cards or the fishing, but not your phone. They won't touch the phone. You won't share your phone.
Yeah, like I would look at it like, I think because the cards lets the entire family have something to do at night. You could play games, all that stuff. Fishing during the day, we could get food with that. And you get a skill, you learn something. And then the phone, you could try to communicate, watch whatever you can.
You're watching Netflix on there.
Yeah, I mean, I could play cards on there, but that's not as fun.
Everybody crowd around the phone. Let's play solitaire together.
Yeah, I could get, and here's the thing. If I have the phone, I could get like amazing fish recipes.
Oh, there you go.
Everybody wants to know your mahi recipe. Let's go.
I'd be like, no, dude, you're getting that fucking coconut. Watch what I do with this coconut. I'm gonna
blow your mind.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Wait till you see how this fucking cod tastes with coconut shoved up its ass.
That is awesome. Oh man. This is a good question. Worst heckler experience.
No, the worst one I had was in Indianapolis. I got a bottle thrown at my head at the stage. Yeah.
Wow. Indianapolis? That's like the cleanest city in the world.
I was on stage, and that night I gave somebody a guest spot. There, Miss Pat came through, and Miss Pat was doing her 3 minutes for Last Comic Standing. So they asked me that. And then you had the host, guest spot, Miss Pat doing her 3 minutes, feature, and me.
Oh shit.
And there's a drunk guy for the host. And he's drunk and he goes, yeah, there he's yelling. And like, I'm going, and I said to these fucking owners, I go, dude, this guy's I'm going to have a problem. There's going to be a problem. And he's like, I know, man, but look how much he's buying booze. Like, what kind of shitty thing is that to say? And long story short, I get on and I'm like 4 minutes in. And there was a big storm that day in Indianapolis where the sky was like purple, hailing golf balls. So I was talking about that. And he said something and we just go at it. And I'm going, buddy, man, what the fuck? And he was like, no, I'm letting you. And he was just trying to, and I go, something? And it was brutal. And he was doing, I go, something? I go, you're a cancer and you need to be cut out early. And I go, you're gone. You're fucking gone, dude. You got to go. And I look, and his friends were upset. And like, not at me, like at the whole thing. It was brutal. Yeah. And he starts getting up and I see him put his jacket on and he grabs, and he's in the front row. He's 10 feet from me, not even. Right. And he grabs a Miller Lite bottle, glass. And I'm in my mind, I'm going, I see him like winding up like a pitcher. And I'm going like, is this guy going to fucking, and he just fucking darts this thing. And I remember it was like Matrix shit. I flew to the left and the heel of the bottle like dents the wall and knocks one of the letters from the club down.
Wow.
And everybody is fucking like, I mean, gasp for like, it was just really nuts. And I hear him on his way out, fucking call me a cat, fuck, blah, blah. And they tried to actually get him arrested for assault because that's what that was.
Right.
Yeah.
And his sister was like, we got to go. So they got in the car, they sped off. And I told the crowd, I go, guys, relax. I've been doing this for a while. I tried to actually do my album there, but the sound wasn't good. So I ended up doing it the following, that was Halloween weekend. That was Halloween weekend of 14. That was Halloween weekend of 2014.
Damn.
Snowing. And I ended up doing the album. I thought I had it on the Saturday night. I ended up doing the album in April in New York City at the Stand. But he left and I told the crowd, calm down. And then I did an hour and 4 minutes after that. And the oddest thing about this story, and this is true, is the bottle, which should have shattered with how hard he threw it, the heel of it, like it was like the hardest part of the glass kind of went in the wall in a very funny way, which dented the wall and made a letter come, but it didn't break.
Wow.
And an audience member at the end goes, dude, do you mind signing that bottle for me? So I got a marker and I signed the label of the fucking thing and I gave it to him. And that guy still has that bottle.
Shut up. That's awesome. That is awesome. Dang, that was hilarious.
I'm hoping that guy watches this podcast and then comments on it. I want to find that guy.
He might.
All right. Do you think the comedy industry is too PC for good comics who just want to talk about anything and everything? Like you talked about being honest, right? And sometimes that can be PC. So how does that work? What do you feel?
You mean when you say you talk about honest and that can be PC, you mean being honest can be not PC?
Yeah. I mean, is the comedy industry wanting too much PC?
No, I got it. I think that it's up to the comedian to, because I'm dealing with this now. And I was just on the other day with Jim and Sam. I was on Jim and Sam on Sirius the other day. And I said, as much as people say that there is freedom of speech, it is, but it isn't. Because if I could lose my job, am I free? If I could say some shit right now on your podcast, right? What did you say at the beginning of this podcast? At the beginning of this podcast, you said, Paul, do we have the rights to this? Do we have, this is our podcast. We can post what you're putting out there. Is that okay with you? And I said, yes. So then you guys cut a clip of me talking about, let's just say I'm talking about, a joke about firearms, guns, or I say something, political that's not picking a side politically, but just kind of something that can be construed as, misconstrued as that. And now somebody looks at that and goes, well, I don't want to book Paul Virzi anymore because I saw him on his podcast and he says something about firearms. And, there was a shooting last week. And we just, even though he's not a bad guy and he's not shooting anybody, the way he's talking about guns, let's just not book him. That doesn't really necessarily mean that I'm free. But what I have to do as the performer is if I believe in what I'm saying, and that's kind of like where I'm at now. Those are the guidelines. It's like, if I believe in what I'm saying and I stick with what I'm saying and I can defend it and it's true and your feelings are hurt, fuck you. Because what I'm saying is honest and what I'm saying is true. Now, if I go up there and I'm going, I think people should really start killing babies for real. Like, and somebody's like, whoa. And it's like not a joke. And I'm like, no, I want fucking people need to start killing babies out here. And you're like, wait a minute. And then if that goes out there and someone's like, yo, I think somebody needs to talk to Paul. Like
it's awesome shit, yeah.
Yeah, like, yo, I think something happened to Paul. Like that's definitely, did he go to the playground and something happened to his kids?
This podcast broke him. I don't know what happened. So
yeah. So to answer the question, I think rest his soul, I think Patrice O'Neill was one to say, somebody said, make sure you believe what you say. Like, right. Don't do the shock value shit. Don't say something for a reaction. But look, if I feel something, like, for example, I don't know if you guys saw I'll Say This, but when I did I'll Say This, I closed with a mass shooting joke. Okay. And the joke was, the mass shooting joke was like one of the shootings was like, there were like 21 people were killed. That's the most in US history. And in my mind, I'm thinking like these guys have machine guns and like there's a lot more people than that. Like if it was me, like I know it's bad, but I'd have better numbers than that. Now, of course I'm not for mass shooting. Of course I think that that's an atrocious act. Some fucking, OCD, screwed up thoughts comedian. That's what we do. And I think in a way, right, we subconsciously try to make things that are tragic have a little bit of light, however that may be. And maybe that's even a defense mechanism. But to look at that, and luckily nobody did. So I have to give credit because that was the one that we were kind of worried about.
Right.
And but you did preface it. You had to preface it and say, obviously I'm not, so you had to actually like say, hey, I'm not trying to shoot people. The fact that you had to mention that in the joke, though, it kind of gives the state of where comedy is, where you even had to be that transparent about it.
Well, right. But the reason what I did, if you noticed, is I did do that. But then at the end, I said, if you're the people, you belong in the theater. So I had to double because of the PC shit and having to be transparent. I had to double down on it. But that's why when I did close on it like that, and we did not get the funniest thing is the biggest backlash of my special, because it was like 98% positive, was people, which the craziest thing was people were like, with the political stuff, like, yeah, well, his Democratic agenda, which is not true at all, because I'm a registered independent and I totally think both sides are fucked up and everything. So when people just saw me making fun of the president because he tweeted at the time, and this is years ago. So like the tweets were fresh and all this stuff. I mean, it's hilarious that it's still relevant now, but that was what I was talking about. And it was funny that was more of the backlash. But anyway, to answer your question, I would say that you just got to be like, you got to believe in what you're saying and be able, if somebody comes up to you afterwards, be like, no. This is why I said that, and I stand by it, and that's, but I don't think you can apologize, and I don't think you can back down from a joke, and in this new hour that I'm doing, I have a couple of fucking doozies, and I have some where I don't preface anything, and I'm just going to say what I feel, and a joke is a joke, and I think that's up to the performer.
Nice.
That's
Great.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be long-winded on that.
No, that's good.
That's the thing. I mean, you have comics like Chappelle saying that stand-up is the last true form of freedom of speech. And it's like, we're starting to lose that ground. And when we lose that ground, you don't get it back. Right. So
that's 100% true. And I'm not trying to get over dramatic about it. The freedom of speech is being attacked. And I never thought that I would get like old enough. Like I would hear parents say that shit and I'd be like, whoa, man, that's some old people shit. Yeah. And now I'm going like, wow, things have changed. Things in the country have changed because to lose your job over words, I think it's wrong if you lose your job over words. Like I said, again, the killing the babies thing, of course, obviously a company can't have somebody around that says something crazy, but to lose your job over words in another profession is bad. But in comedy, in a joke, like that's like to have somebody picketing or have somebody, protesting outside of a comedy club saying, how can you have this person here? And that person loses money because of a joke. That's when I agree with you 100%, Mayor. That's when you don't get it back.
Yeah. No, that's great. Actually, this is our last question that we ask every excellent guest that we have. So we definitely appreciate you giving us time in the middle of a snowstorm.
No worries.
So when someone Googles your name, what do you want your autocomplete to be? Paul Virzi, what?
When they put my name in Google, what do they want? What do I want to see pop up?
They say, Paul Virzi, what's the next words you want to pop up?
I guess, great stand-up comedian, I guess, I just want, I guess I just want people to, when people look at that and read that, and then ultimately, if you do read that, you'll go to my body of work. And I just want my body of work to be something that has just always been improving and evolving. when I did Night at the Stand in 2015, and it was #1 on iTunes, and we were proud of it. And then it made Billboard, and I was like, wow. And I had some really amazing peers go, that was really funny, man, on all standards. And I was like, wow. And then to have I'll Say This get over 10 million views online, and have multiple bits go viral, and have comedy clubs open their doors for me, great. And now it's like, well, now this next one, I think I'm more evolved, and I think I'm more honest, and I think I'm more just, you walk off, I walk off stage, and you leave the club knowing me a little bit, and either agreeing with me or not, but knowing what I do. So I just want to be known as somebody that did it right, and that always was real. Somebody that was real, and somebody that was like somebody that, that if you talk to me afterwards, I didn't do some shtick. I didn't do some, yes, I might be goofy, and yes, I may, go into certain things. I always loved like George Carlin type shit, where George would tell a crazy story, but then he would do like a goofy dance, or then he would do something, but you kind of knew his personality. You kind of knew that even though he was this like, dude that can be very kind of either dark or tell a story or be like in your face, he also had that kind of thing. And I think that that's what made it real. And I would like, I would like that. So, I mean, I don't know if Google does that, because Google could say some shit like, hey, comedian, and then I don't know what else it could say. But yeah, I just
want algorithms, right? So when people type in, they're typing in Paul Virzi, school shooter. That's a different, that'll become
yeah. If it's Paul Virzi, like stand up comedian, and then there's positive things said, I guess that's really all you could ask, because I wouldn't want it to be like Paul Virzi fucking, like gets bottle thrown at, you know what I mean? Like, what's funny is when I did that in Indianapolis, people are like, oh, and I had the footage of it, and people are like, you got to put that on YouTube. And I'm like, no. And like, why would I do that? Because it's like, and I see comics do that. Yeah. And a lot of these comics, and I'm not going to mention names, but like, oh, comic destroys heckler. That's cool once. That shit's cool once. But then it's like, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to be the dude that either gets bottles thrown at him, or are you trying to be the comic that like somebody's gonna yell something out because you're gonna put that on YouTube? It's like, I don't want to be that guy either. I just want to be someone that's like, yo, great show. Right. So that's my answer to you. It would be Paul Virzi, great show. I remember I did Gotham Comedy Club, amazing weekend, my city, fucking line out the door, couple shows sold out. People are online to meet me and talk to me, shake my hand and take a picture. Obviously pre-COVID, relax. And say, what the fuck you mean meet and greet?
Cancel him right now.
This is part of the problem. Fucking super spreader. No. So and one dude came up to me, and he just shook my hand, and I know what Gotham is and what Gotham is bringing, who performs there, who gets a whole weekend there. And he just shook my hand. And he goes, that's one of the best live shows I've seen in years, man. And like the way he said it, he meant it. And what even felt better was I put everything into that show, and I put my everything into it. And like he recognized it, and he got that from what I did. And that's all that you could ask for as a comic.
Absolutely. People don't realize putting that shit on the internet, that energy attracts the same fucking energy. Like it makes a difference what you put out there into the world, and what you speak into existence makes a difference.
It's 1,000% right. And I think that a lot of people, I talked on the Virzi Effect, my podcast this week, about people do things for the wrong reasons. Having people say to me things like, yo, man, comedy's dead. What do you think about that? What do you think about comedy being dead, man? Stand-up's over. So I think people just need to focus on the podcast. And I'm going, let me ask you a question. You think I dropped out of college to be a fucking radio host? Because I'll tell you this, I wouldn't have dropped out of college. I would have got my fucking communications degree, and I would have been on radio, or I would have been doing sports whatever the shit that I wanted to talk on radio, whether it be sports or whatever, I would do that. I do stand-up because I love it. So if you want to do some shit because that's what's hot now and because you want to be rich or famous, great. I want to get rich and famous as a byproduct of the shit that I love, which is this shit. I got into this shit because of Murphy and Pryor and Carlin and those guys. And if comedy has a low time, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If comedy had a boom and I was part of that, I was in comedy during a boom, and I'll be in comedy during a fucking pandemic, but I'm not just going to fucking be like, oh, comedy's dead now, so let me go. It's like, does an engineer or an architect be like, fuck, man, should I be a dentist? It's like, no.
But these are the times that weed out those half-hearted people, the opportunists that are just, I'm just there to make a quick dollar. It's like, okay, bye, bitch, you're gone, Pandemic came, all those people are out now.
Yeah, and it's almost like, okay, fine, you want to be a YouTuber and make millions of dollars. That's great, but that's just not what I want to do. So it's like, I like the art form. I'm not going to hate on somebody that goes on YouTube and gets 2 million followers and is getting monster checks and they're a famous YouTuber who lives in a mansion. God bless you if that's what you want to do. But I just love making people laugh and getting better at something that I dedicated my life to. It's hard. It's like, you got to look at what you had. I always say, you got to look at where you were, where you are now, and where you're going. Look at where you were 5 years ago and now where you are today, and then think about where you're going to be the next 5. And if I could have done this, I could have done specials, and I could have made, these things happen, then what else can I do? So I'm not going to just be like, oh, comedy's in a bad spot. People are making money. I'm still doing a fucking podcast.
Yeah. No, that is absolutely. I can't possibly end the show on a higher note than that. That is absolutely true. It's like you're just preaching now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope I didn't fucking turn this into I just got genuinely upset thinking about it.
These are conversations Tavir and I have, because every scene has their same set of people. You have your hustlers, you have the people that work hard, people that work hard but never get anywhere because they don't know how to apply it correctly. Yeah. And then you have your opportunists. They're always fucking waiting for someone just to fall so they can just jump on them, and that's the energy you just need to weed out of the community to begin with, because they're just toxic.
And especially if it's in your circle, listen, it's totally normal to feel envy when somebody gets something that you want. I've had peers get some shit and I've been like, man, I want to get that. How do I get that? And I feel like I'm funny enough to get that. That's a normal feeling. That's a normal feeling to set that goal for yourself. But when it becomes like that opportunity, like, I'm just going to go and do this because that's it. Like, there's a lot of people that think just getting on a podcast. Let me just get on Joe Rogan's podcast, or let me get on Logan Paul's podcast, because those are the biggest podcasts. And if I get on that podcast, then my followers will go up. And it's like, what did you do to get on that podcast? And what are you going to talk about what you did? So you're just going to sit there and be like, I'm here. So that's it. That's it. Come on, followers. Come on. It's like, no, it's like you get on that podcast because you did some shit, you achieved something, you put something out there, and you created your own thing. And then all of a sudden it rolls, not just to go and try to do that. So, and I've learned that, and this is all part of growing, but you guys obviously seem like you have a great grip on what's going on because you understand that.
Thank you so much. This has been a phenomenal opportunity for us. Tanvir and I have been looking forward to this since we've asked you. So we were actually super excited about this. I kind of get to nerd and geek out a little bit, so I'm very happy.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. And for your listeners, if they want to check out the special, if they want to check out, they could check out the special right now, which is now an album, 800 Pound Gorilla. They could get it wherever you get albums, iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music. The special is streaming on Comedy Central. And what else? My podcast, The Virzi Effect, my Patreon, Gun to Our Heads, which I just did an episode today with Sal Vacano from Impractical Jokers. The first 4 episodes was it Bobby Kelly, Chrissy D, Chris DiStefano, Mike Cannon, Big J Okerson, and today Sal Vacano. So you could check that out for a $5 subscription. Just all my stuff, man. Get me on Instagram, Twitter. I appreciate it.
Yeah, check out the websites. You'll see where you're performing when everything gets back to normal. Obviously, your Instagram's up there. Thank you once again, Paul. Appreciate it. We hope you have a kick-ass show down here in San Antonio this weekend, and we'll see you soon.
All right, man. All love, guys. Later.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, that was one of those episodes where we talked about comedy a lot in depth.
Absolutely.
It's almost like Comedy 101. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we got schooled in such a positive way. We learned so much more out of this.
Totally. I really had a great time talking to him, learned so much, and I'm glad we will get to see him soon in San Antonio.
Yes, super grateful. You guys definitely check out his podcast, check out the album. All right. Like always, if you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And if you really, really liked it, please send it to your friends, family, and enemies. As always, I'm Mary Picarazzi.
I'm Tanveer Arora.
See you next time.